Slot, Arne Slot, and I want this measured because obviously you'll get the nonsense online about Arne Slot out, and there'll always be idiots that way. But it is right, of course, it's right to ask questions when you've lost 4 in a row. I suppose almost before this, you've lost 3 in a row. I don't know about the optics on this because you'll have seen the online tweets and reports that away in Dubai or a break, instead of maybe hatching a master plan and then just picking the same team, same setup, when we're all thinking, hold on, that was disastrous against Chelsea. It's maybe not just the best optics in the world, is it?
Yeah, I mean, I don't like to kind of buy into this stuff because I just think, I don't know, like, we talk about kind of, we've got to look after these players and managers, they get asked to do so much. The job's so high stress that Jurgen Klopp had to quit in the end. It's worth remembering that. So, when you can take a break, take it. But obviously, the problem is that football fans sometimes are a little bit emotional and a bit kind of irrational at times. And so, as you say, it's kind of just the optics, really, of what it looks like when you're going on holiday when things are bad and then you get an even worse result. Then at the end of it, it's never going to be kind of looked upon particularly favourably, is it? So, but the only answer to this, really, I think, rather than going too deeply into it, you just got to start winning games again. If you start winning games again, you can go on as many holidays as you can. You can go to Ibiza on a piss-up in the season if you like as well, as he did the back end of last season, and nobody cared because Liverpool won the league. So, it's you can question the optics, and I think that's fair, but I also think, it's one of those where you just start winning games and everything will be fine. And a lot of the tactical concerns that we've got will probably evaporate when they start winning games, and we won't be worried about holidays or this, that, or the other. Just win is the mantra, really.
Yes, people will judge it different as they're doing in the chat panel. I suppose the one thing at the moment, and there's different phrasing for it, you'll know, people are saying they look uncoached. They look like a bunch of strangers. I suppose the uncoached element is almost maybe like, in a way you could argue it's the biggest insult people could say to Arne Slot. He would bristle at that strongly, but there just seems to be no relationship. And what are you putting that down to? Because I'll see that, it's early in the season, but he does chop and change a lot, and then he's settled, but whenever there's an issue, it doesn't seem to be fixed, like against Chelsea. What are you putting down to this uncoached, stranger-like? What would you describe it as?
I think you've got to acknowledge the turnover. I don't want to go in too harsh on the manager. I mean, he showed so many good things last season, and I do think the turnover is massive. You've ended with a half-fit Isak who doesn't kind of know the movements of everybody else, and everybody else doesn't know his movements. Ekatike's had a good start, but even so, it's just difficult to put all these new players in at once. You've got Kirkes coming in at left back, Frimpong a change at right back. Vid's coming in and working out a new league. And so you've got everyone where you can kind of point at quite a few of them and say, even Kirkes being asked to do completely different things. It's like you've all got these little mitigating circumstances around the performances. And when you put, 4 or 5 of them in the same starting 11 at once, then that adds up to horrendous disjointedness, which is what we're seeing at times. And I think, my biggest worry is like what I said about the kind of build-up issues that Liverpool are having, and whether that is a personnel thing and they're not going to be able to solve it unless they sign a centre-half who can pass the ball. I'm really concerned about that now. Whereas a couple of weeks ago, I was maybe thinking maybe they can solve it out, midfield rotations, maybe play Curtis Jones a little bit more, which he seems bizarrely reluctant to do, by the way. Yeah. But I think, that's the one thing that is kind of worrying me, that they won't be able to sort that out. That's not just a turnover thing. That's something that's going to be a problem until they sign someone new. So I'm massively concerned by that one, I have to say. But yeah, the rest of it, unfortunately, I think it's just going to take time. And you don't know when that click is going to come, but it is going to come at some point. I mean, like I said, I think people are kind of trying to say that the players Liverpool have signed are poor or whatever. I don't buy into that. I think we're just seeing quite a few of them not operating anywhere near the peak of the powers and all simultaneously being in the team, and that's causing a lot of problems. So I think a lot of the problems will be solved by just giving them a little bit more time. They will work it out in the end because, it's a very, very good squad of very good players. So, I'm convinced things will get better once they've got that time and they've trained a bit more together. But that build-up issue is the one that's worrying me, and that if he can't coach his way out of that, then I think it's going to be a really long season. And I actually think, if that click doesn't come soon enough, then I think it's going to be a long season in terms of, I don't think they will win a major honour, unfortunately, because that turnover has proven too much for them.
I was going to ask you this, because I didn't want this to be a show about talking about transfers, because there's more important things going on at the moment. But I think Nikolai's just mentioned in there about an example like Van Hecker in January. I know we've just spent, nearly 500 million there. It doesn't really matter too much the exact figure. But if we are seeing that, and there's no way of coaching that at all, January window becomes important to get someone in who can progress the ball, doesn't it? Surely, or the season almost just will fizzle out.
Yeah, I agree. If it's not solvable through coaching or just play Curtis Jones more, for goodness sake, it's such an obvious solution to that. If he can't solve it, if he doesn't want to play Jones in every game, if he doesn't find a way of solving that build-up issue, then yeah, they do have to sign. And that's up to the sporting director and the manager to decide between themselves if this is an issue that can't be coached and can't be fixed. In that regard, I would like to think he could, earn his money and sort it out without signing someone. But if not, as I say, they've got to do something about it. And you're kind of concerned about that, is that really it's like it's very Liverpool not to, and just to say, okay, well, we'll get to next season and then we'll sort it in the summer or whatever. But yeah, then the likelihood is if they don't solve it and that problem continues in that way, then they'll be going into a season. They're basically going to be writing off the season very, very early on, and saying that this isn't going to be a season where they win anything. Which, for Liverpool, off the season they'd had and the foundation they gave themselves, that's pretty disappointing, really.
True, and it's fair to fans asked we spent 450 odd million. We're expected to write off a season over the future. That that's going to force questions upon them. And I mean, you mentioned Curtis Jones. It almost goes into two camps for me. There seems to be, and I think it's fair to almost ask Arne Slot this, almost an element of protected species that, and I know these players have got immense records, so I can't question that. But regardless, almost it seems of how they're playing, like Salah, McAllister, Kanate stay in the team, where regardless of how they play, Nketiah, Curtis Jones, Federico Chiesa end up on the bench. It doesn't seem like a meritocracy so much at the moment, does it? If that's fair.
Yeah, I think the manager may be getting kind of confused as well by the idea of like, well, the team as a whole is disjointed, so no wonder we're kind of not seeing the best of Mo Salah or or McAllister, his fitness issue. We need to just get him there and make sure his fitness is right, and try and get him there. So he's staying loyal in that sense. But as you say, I mean, the longer it goes on, I mean, when is McAllister going to play well? It's been he's been fit for a lot of the season, really, and has been very, very poor. And you think, you can absolutely give him space for fitness issues, and you've got to get him up to full fitness as soon as possible. But you're going to keep losing games if you have him in midfield doing this at the moment, because it just isn't working for him. He's a million miles off it. And Curtis Jones, every time he's coming on, he's showing he deserves to start games. And I think he's a massive build-up solution for Liverpool that they're just ignoring at the moment as well. His ability to kind of drop into left-back. I mean, how much does that suit Kirkes, by the way? You drop Curtis Jones into left-back, he can build up from there. He's comfortable in the ball, very difficult to dispossess. And it allows Kirkes to pump up like right where he wants to be on the pitch. So, I think those solutions are kind of staring the manager in the face, really. And as you say, Chiesa, I did a piece on him on YouTube today talking about he's surely getting to the point now where he's knocking on the door that hard that I don't care how bad, maybe he's bad in training, but I don't care. Every time he touches the pitch, he scores or assists, and that, for a side that can't finish its dinner at the moment, you've got to kind of use him. So, I think that, the manager, I understand why they always show loyalty to players that have consistently delivered for them. But it reaches a point, and we're at that point now, 4 consecutive defeats, where it's not disloyal, is it, to start sort of making some changes there and giving someone like Curtis Jones or a Chiesa a chance that they've fully earned, by the way. I'm not just calling for changes for change's sake. These players have earned it for the performances this season. So, it's not just a kind of roll of the dice and let's see, if that'll change our fortunes. These players are playing well, so might be worth getting them in the team.
Yeah, I think Ekitike is the top scorer. Curtis Jones was the best player probably when he came on yesterday. He was making things happen. And Chiesa, as you said, I think it's 5 goals contributions in less than 200 minutes. He just makes things happen, you could see. And also, what about 3 slide tackles as well, Chase? He was just affecting the game, making things happen. So it does seem to be, it's one I hope Arne Slot kind of gets asked it in Frankfurt tomorrow, because it does seem to be staring it in the face a little bit. And I'd be surprised if he doesn't get asked on this one, the Florian Wirtz question again, because he talked in the press conference, you were there, about, of course he's going to be asked, what do we do? And he started his answer with, we've got to play him. And yet he didn't again against, Chelsea, Everton, this a big game. Florian Wirtz is finding himself on the bench, but Arne Slot saying in his presser, we've got to play him to get the best out of him. And I have to think he did well, to be fair, when he came on, made a few things happen and gave us something. But it is just it's a bit strange around. He's got to make a decision on this Wirtz thing, surely. Is he a starter? Where's he going? Otherwise, there's massive questions.
I think the game itself as well kind of gave us evidence that it was the wrong decision not to start him, because one thing, this is to defend McAllister and Szoboszlai and their lack of impact on the game in central midfield yesterday, and their inability to kind of help out with build-up. I could not believe how far pushed up those two were. It was basically Liverpool's build-up plan was Canate panicking on the ball, Gravenberch man-marked by 3 players, and then for some reason McAllister and Szoboszlai basically pushed up to make
nothing in the middle
5 and just completely emptied the midfield. And I could not understand that plan. And look, if you're going to do that and you need someone to kind of be an attacking midfielder who then drops in and kind of can turn out or whatever, I'd rather see Florian Wirtz doing that than Alexis McAllister in the form that he's in at the moment. So I just, you weren't using, McAllister is a better central midfielder than Florian Wirtz. So, if he'd have been dropping into a 2 with Gravenberch, allowing us to progress the ball, that would have made total sense to me. But the way he was being used is that kind of, basically, honestly, we're pushing him up as number 10s to make almost a front 5 for Liverpool. If that was the idea, they absolutely needed to play a proper attacking midfielder like Florian Wirtz. I think he would have thrived, and I think he kind of saw it, even though he comes on in that crazy formation, that 4-2-4. But he's getting on the ball, he starts to dictate things. I think he would have done that in a normal formation. So, I think the manager kind of got that one wrong, really, on Wirtz. And maybe it is time, maybe now, after 4 defeats, to just say, right, this is my best 11. Florian Wirtz, we need him to get there now. We need him to adapt. We just need to speed up the process of getting him up to speed. Just play him and play him and play him. And, I'd rather see those results than kind of leaving him in and out and then, getting a bit of a rubbish performance and just going with a kind of 4-2-4 at the end, all panicky. Because I think he's showing loads of encouraging signs as well. We've said this a lot, I think, is that, I don't doubt for a second he's going to get there, because I just think you can see already he's got moments of real class in him. And I mean, he plays a role in the goal that Liverpool do score yesterday, and I thought very bright in moments as well. So just play him. Let's just get him through this and get that kind of settled team, get it there as quickly as you possibly can.
Yeah, I think everyone's feeling that way. Even Ekitike and Isak together, I think people are calling for that. Chiesa minutes, let's just see a few things different